Art is how I bring beauty into the world. It's a way of saying something difficult in a beautiful way, I think. That you're creating something, you're building something, and you give it away to people. So this will be given away to my daughter as part of her regalia, and remind her of her responsibility to Mother Earth and stewardship and community. Every bead that you put into something is like putting a prayer into it. And you don't pull too hard, just like you don't push too hard. Communities need to heal to be healthy, because sometimes you have to tend to different things. Just like in your community, you have to attend to different things. So sometimes you feel you need to work on this area, and then sometimes you feel you go work on that area.
One thing I had noticed in the ACEs and resilience field in Alaska and elsewhere in the country is that often people of color were not represented, and Indigenous people were not represented, especially in positions of leadership, even though they were doing some of the most innovative and important work to reduce trauma and build resilience. And so one of my roles was to make sure that our steering committee and our work groups represented the diversity of Alaska.
Alaska Native people are resilient, period. End of story. We wouldn't be here today if we weren't. I think it's really important to be able to capture that energy.
The Alaska Resilience Initiative takes on this question of ACEs by looking not only at individuals and families, but schools and healthcare systems and government and communities, because we have to do all of that, because one influences the other.
So we continue to have inequities in health outcomes in our country. Some of the inequities that occur socially and the pain that is in people's lives that often comes out of very early, and how we might begin to really get at the root causes. Right now, one of the issues we're dealing with in public health is the opioid crisis. The fertile ground in which heroin use and fentanyl use really thrives is isolation. Part of how we reduce isolation is building personal and community resiliency through interconnectedness.
The three main purposes of the Alaska Resilience Initiative: strengthen and grow the network between those who are already doing this work. Use our website and our social media and many other platforms as a way to amplify the efforts that other people are doing. And then to come together and use our collective power to exert pressure on certain key areas of system or policy change. As individuals or as individual organizations or sectors, we can't do alone.
It's different. The fix is not going to be technical. It's oftentimes going to come at the community level to be able to address adverse childhood experiences in a way that can stop the intergenerational transmission that seems to occur.
You know, I tell people that I'm carrying around right now 152 years of complex trauma within my cellular structure. And I'm not unique. This is something that is within our communities. It's attributed to things like colonialism, racism, systemic oppression. I think there are a lot of lessons that can be learned from Indigenous survival. Alaska is a harsh place. It's a challenging place, and yet our people lived here for thousands and thousands of years. There's a lot to be learned from ancestral knowledge, ancestral relationships, family structures, clan systems.
And so when we talk about historical trauma, you know, we've lived that, you know, for a shorter period of time than we've lived our resiliency.
We've created a healing network within our own communities, and we want to teach people about how we did that.
Well, the Alaska Resilience Initiative is a relatively young initiative. There are regional coalitions across Alaska that are doing really important on-the-ground work to support families and communities and systems. And so how can we support the coalitions that exist, help connect them to each other so they can share resources and tools, and help elevate the work that they're piloting on a local community so that we can bring it to create statewide policy change or system change. It is vital that we address not only ACEs in this universal way, but also that we look at the ways in which certain groups of people not only might experience more stress, but also might be discriminated against for the effects of that stress. So when children go to school and they have a lot of stress and they're acting out in ways that are predictable for children who are experiencing stress at home, certain children are more likely to be punished than others based on skin color, based on sexual orientation. We can work at each age level to heal from the trauma. We can't just start over and prevent it from nothing, but we can help support so that at each generation there's less trauma.
One of the things that I'm really excited about is working on curriculum development that actually will address things like historical and intergenerational trauma, systemic oppression, racism, and those things are key. They're critical. This new curriculum will help us to better pay attention to cause and effect.
And so we are learning as we're going, creating a curriculum that attempts to create the culture shift, not only that lens from what's wrong with you to what's happened to you, but what's happened to you on a broader scale. The foundational value that gets me up every morning, the reason I go to work and do this work, and I'm so excited about doing it, is that I believe that every person deserves to live a life of dignity.
The ultimate purpose of being in this world is to be a good human being, to be a good relative, to be a good ancestor. And what does that look like today when we're faced with so much trauma? Our truth is not just the trauma. I'm an Indigenous woman with all the strength and wisdom of our ancestors, right? That's my truth. And there's so much healing in that. Reawakening and connecting to the strength of who we are as Native people in a way that allows other people, not just Indigenous people, but all people, human beings, to just thrive. Yeah.